Hello, Sawadee-ka, and good afternoon to everybody. How are you all doing today? Today it's a happy day for me because I get to chat with Kyle Daniels, who is a friend of mine who I met on TEDx exactly September of 2019. How are you doing, Kyle?
I'm awesome, Abel. How are you doing? Sorry about that. Microphone was on mute. Unmuted.
Oh, okay. No worries. You know, this is like a chill chat, like me talking with a friend, but a friend who he's always very positive. This is one thing I want you guys to know about Kyle is that I met him last week, and I think women tend to have more emotional ups and downs, and I definitely would say that I am like that. And when I was talking to Kyle, Kyle was like coaching me. He was like, "Yeah, you got to think like this, you got to think like that," and I was like, yes, yes, totally agree. So it was great, and I think that if you're joining us and you're listening to us, you're gonna really enjoy this chat, because for those of you who did not watch my series before, and I started the series, the You Are Able series, back in May of 2020, and then I took a break, and then I restarted it again last week with Susanna and this week with Kyle, because I wanted to get in touch with the previous guests of my series and also new ones too, and ask them in the last year and a half, what did you do to adapt to the change that was forced upon us? And I say forced because I had so much change in my life in the last year and a half. And I wanted to consult them. I wanted to ask for their advice. I want to hear what they have to say about what did they do to, make the change and adapt and to, even thrive. Some people are thriving in this period. So yeah, thank you so much, Kyle. Before I start, asking you all these questions, is there anything that you would like to share with the audience?
There's nothing specifically. Just looking forward to our conversation.
No? Okay. All right. Well, so everybody knows that you are a mindset coach. And how long have you been the mindset coach now?
I've officially been coaching for about online mindset coach since the start of the pandemic. But before that, I was doing more coaching in also work on the mind, but it was more combined the mind and the body.
Right.
I would take people on, like whether it is running and then using the body as a way to really break through in the mind, breaking their beliefs, the way they view themselves. So that was the focus initially. But then obviously as COVID started, I needed to move to the online space.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Me too. I see in your Instagram page, Coach Kyle Daniels and then Coach Success, that you have photos with your clients, like a selfie on a mountain with a nice view. And you do a lot of training as well. So yeah, I really admire all of that. I personally do yoga. So I mean, I love the outdoor space, but I like to do the yoga part. And then I like to hike. But going back to, what you're doing now, some people thrived during this time because they were already doing online things. And for you and I, who kind of have to transfer or, transform our coaching from in-person or the, traditional ways of connecting with people now to online. Did you thrive or did you struggle? And how did you change the way that you worked? Let's say the last year and a half.
Personally, like I mentioned, initially I had a lot of in-person clients of people in Phuket, where we would do like experiences, like I said, using the body to break through in the mind, certain beliefs, the way they view themselves. So that was the starting initially, right? But obviously with the onset of COVID, I moved more to the online space, which obviously opened up opportunities as well, because now I could work with people all across the world. So I really enjoyed just moving to the online space and focusing more and solely on the mind, because my background is in psychology. So I always loved understand the individual, the way they think, the belief patterns, the way we process emotions. So that was the core of it. So I consider myself to have initially, obviously, like the pivoting part, getting used to it, but learning and growing from it. So I enjoyed moving to the online space. Obviously, I missed the in-person contact to an extent, because it can never, Zoom, this can never replace the in-person contact. But I mean, Zoom and the fact that we have the ability to connect people across the globe, even though we are confined and restricted by our movement, is an amazing gift in its own. So I think we need to also realize that had this pandemic happened, say 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, where access to the internet wasn't as wide, I believe that it would have been different. The approach would have been different. We would have struggled way more. So yeah, personally, I learned a lot through this process, and going into a different domain in a sense really unlocked more opportunities.
Now, this is not part of the questions that I had sent you before, but because you were saying all of these things, I think the audience would be interested to know what exactly did you do, like, let's say behind the scenes. Yeah, of course, you can train people, you can put all of your training from in-person to coaching, but is there anything specific that you did in the way you set up your business? Like, did you do like online courses? Like, did you create a platform somehow online to market yourself? Like anything specific that you did?
Yeah, the main focus was my podcast, creative podcast, which was a great opportunity for me. First of all, I love learning. So it gave me the opportunity to really learn from other people. So I had people from across the globe on my podcast where I had the opportunity to interview them and jump into their minds and understand their thinking. So I think that was the opportunity for me to learn and grow, but also then develop my ability to speak in person, like at the go, my speaking skills, developing that. So that really served and helped me in that way. So developing that, the podcast side, then allowed me then to connect with more people, and that then around the world, which then allowed me to then build my clientele in the sense of my online business. Yeah.
Right. And now you had mentioned that you had gone through some tough times in 2020, which I also did. I posted a really long post yesterday on my LinkedIn and on my Facebook page saying the struggles that I went through. Because when you're posting like, oh, life is so perfect, everything is so great. I mean, people just kind of like, yeah, whatever, another pretentious. No, I'm not pretentious, but I just try to, inspire. And sometimes I even post for myself to motivate myself while I'm helping, to give a positive message to others. But what I find is that sometimes it's also important to share with people your struggles, your vulnerability, and the things that was tough. And I talked to so many people. Of course, people have a reduced workload. Some people have such a growth in their workload because of COVID. But, it depends on what kind of business you're doing. Most people suffered from lack of work or less work, or they have to change, or they got fired, or they have to change their business. What happened to you in that time that was considered tough?
Personally, 2020 has been one of my most difficult years. And yes, everybody struggled to a certain extent, right? And like I said, some people thrive through it. But especially coming off one of my best years, which is 2019, and then falling into 2020, where I lost my father, which is the first time I ever got dealt a hand like losing a loved one, somebody really close to me. So that was really challenging in itself, because now it's about, grieving while also being abroad, while being away from family. So that, in a sense, taught me so much about challenges. First of all, before that, I was already always seeing challenges as an opportunity for growing. But, dealing with one of the hardest pains that human beings will ever deal with, which is losing a loved one, right? Grief. That is a different level of understanding, right? Of consciousness, understanding the human experience. So that actually gave me a lot of value, in a sense, where even though it was tremendously tough, I learned a lot through it. And don't get me wrong, it was extremely tough. I personally needed to learn a lot along the way. So I'll tell you a bit about it. So after losing my father, right, one of the first things was that I first asked myself, okay, obviously emotions are wild. You're feeling like, what's happening right now, right? But the very first thing I realized is that there's no point in fighting, right? There's no point in fighting this. So I needed to surrender to a power greater than me. And that also taught me a really great lesson, because, growing up, I've always been a fighter. So I'm always the one to not physically fight, but I'm always the one to go after what I want, right? Breaking down barriers, breaking down boundaries, being willing to grow towards the person I want to become. So I've always been that type of person, a fighter. If you tell me no, I'll find a way, right? So that is just the mindset that I have. But when I obviously got the news and stuff, I needed to realize that this is different. You can't fight this, right? This is something that is bigger than you and I. It's bigger than ourselves, right? And that meant that I needed to surrender. That meant that I needed to look at, you know what, how do I just allow myself to feel these emotions, right?
Yeah.
How do I let myself just understand the pain?
Yeah.
And grow from that. So I think that was one of the most difficult parts of 2020. 2020 for me was that, right? Besides the the lockdowns we had and all those things being limited in our movement, I think the core was losing somebody I love, right? That was the most difficult. But from that, there were many gifts from that, which we can go into as we speak.
That was it was very beautiful, because a lot of times men and women, but I hear it more from men. Men tend to be maybe a little bit less connected to their emotions, or they're maybe taught to not feel it. And from personal experience, from talking to other coaches, from talking to people who have really suffered trauma and who had become coaches, what they always say is that if you don't feel through your pain, because if you don't allow yourself to feel it, you will never understand it. You do not allow yourself to accept it. And if you don't accept it, you cannot let it go. So it would just kind of like hide into some deep, dark corner of your head, and it'll come up in other ways, where like anger or sadness, depression, or whatever it is, it comes up when you try to block it or hide it. And if I may add, in addition to what you said, I also lost, I lost my grandma, but she was already 102, so it was expected. But I lost my 26-year-old, I think he was 26, my 26-year-old cousin from Hong Kong, from suicide. And that was really, really tough, because this cousin of mine, who I'm not very close to, I'm close to my aunt, his mother. And it was really, really, really tough time for her. Because, for example, like my cousin who killed himself, he has an older sister, so my niece, she never calls me, ever. We are not close, but she called me out of nowhere on Facebook, and I knew something was wrong. Like, something was really wrong when you want to reach out to talk to people. And what she was saying to me is, I don't know how to control the situation. She was saying that. She's, I don't know how to control the situation. I don't know how to help my erratic mom, my aunt, because my niece have issues with my aunt. Okay, she gets along very well with my uncle, her dad, but with my aunt, she's not. And my nephew, the one who killed himself, is very close to my aunt. So she was telling me, how do I control my aunt, my mom? I cannot control her. She's going crazy, blah, blah. And one thing I said to her is, I said, I would never be able to understand what you're going through in your situation, because your brother just hung himself and your mom and dad are just going nuts right now. And your mom, my aunt, wants to kill herself, right? And I'm not saying this to get into a depressing mode. I'm saying this because these are truth, these are facts, and these are real things that really happened very close to me. And I have known so many other people too, whose family members did this. And it's very important for us to share this, because what I told her is, you have to let her emotions flow, just like waves in the sea. Waves come and then they'll go, and they'll come back and they'll go. There's nothing you can control in her right now. You have to be able to understand. And she's only in her 20s also, like 28, 29. So she also doesn't have the life experience. And of course, who wants to have an experience where their, his brother killed himself? But she also doesn't understand too, to allow her mother to feel this emotion, to allow it, to accept it. And that's that was the only advice that I could give her. I said, allow your mom to just feel the emotions as if it's waves coming in. It has to come and it has to go. And in time, if you give her love instead of giving her judgment or ridicule or blaming her for your brother killing himself, because that's not going to help with anything. And blaming, complaining, all of this negative emotions. I know you want to. I mean, I do it sometimes too, complain like, oh my God, today is so cloudy and it's just making my mood like crap. Yeah, so what? There are things that you can't control. You cannot bring your brother back. You cannot tell your mother to go back to the emotion that she used to be before the death. And it's just something that has to come, right? It's like forced upon us to learn this. And it's exactly what you said. You have to accept it, you have to learn, and you have to learn to let it go in a way. I that's what I kind of feel is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And as human beings, we try to always maintain this control, right? We always want to be in control. And yes, there are positives of that, right? Where we want to be in control. There are moments where we need to be in control, but there are moments where we need to let control go, right? And like I said, death being one of that. But on that topic, right, what we need to understand is that all pain, right, any painful experience, any traumatic experience that has a seed, right? The seed, the gift. So we need to find the gift in. That's the first. So I think that being able to find the gift at the beginning, right? Just at the beginning, even though you don't feel that gift yet, right? Even though you don't see it as a gift yet, but you can realize that cognitively that, this is going to help me in this particular way, right? It will help me express myself more, like in the case with your cousin, express myself more with my own family, right? Or be more conscious about how other people are feeling. So there's always gifts in it, even though in that moment it might not seem like it. But what we can do as human beings when we are facing these types of hurdles or challenges or painful experiences is to ask ourselves, what is the potential gift I can get from this? Is there a potential gift hidden in this? Which there is always a potential gift. And then from that, getting that gift, and like I say, it's not going to alleviate the pain, right? We don't want to say, you know what, because I have this gift that the pain or the loss is going to subside. No, you still need to have to feel that emotions. But now at least you know that on the other side of the emotion, there is growth, right? There is gift for you. And that's, I think, a really important point that people can use framework when people can use when going into challenging, painful experiences.
Yes, totally agree. And when we are, and I'm just saying when you are first person in your pain, it's hard to see clearly the growth or the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Because there's a lot of, I just call it dark clouds, or I call it like a heavy veil. That's how I describe my emotions, is this heaviness, this pain that you feel. And that is when it's very important to reach out to people, whether it's your family members, whether it's your friends, whether it's coaches like ourselves, like Kaya is a mindset coach. I'm a communication coach. I help with not only public speaking, but I also help with self-communications, right? How do you think? How do you talk to yourself? So it's a bit similar. It's very important because the coaches are the ones, or your family members or your friends are the ones who at that moment has a clearer mind, and they're less emotionally attached because you are in the first person, you're in I just call it, you're in the cloud, right? You're in the shits at that time. So it's harder to, to get your feet out of the sticky situation or to be able to see clearly. You need somebody outside to help you, to guide you, or to be that mirror for you so that you can see and believe and trust and have that hope that, you know what, you're going to be fine. Everybody goes through it in different parts in their life. Maybe the situation is just different, but everybody goes through some form of challenges or another. Now, let me ask you, did you change at all your title or in any way the way that you worked? Or everything pretty much just stayed the same and you just went from more in-person into online growth?
Yeah. So like I said previously, I was more, I was just a coach. I consider myself more broadly as a coach, right? Where I would help people, even though, like I said, it was more through the physical element and the mind as well. But After obviously deciding to go online, I decided to, focus solely on the mindset element, right? Mindset and mental strength, because I believe that everybody, like the challenges we're speaking about right now, faces challenges sometime in their life, right? Somebody's going to get knocked down. They are going to feel like the world's against them. They're going to feel like, I'm dealing with so much pain, so emotion. I don't know the way forward. Everybody deals with that, right? And sometimes you just need that person, like you said there, to give you the tools in order to grow through it, because we are all going to go through it, but we're not all going to grow through it. And you mentioned something there, that emotions are like waves, it comes and goes, right? And that's likewise is the good times and the bad times, right? Good times are here, but we want good times to stay. But it's like the seasons of life, right? It's going to go past, right? And before we know it, we might be in a bad time. And this doesn't mean that we can't look forward to the good times again. They will come, right? But don't get attached to it. Good times will come, bad times will come. But what we know will stay is the lessons gained from it. So when you're going through these experiences, these seasons, ask yourself always, how am I growing? What am I learning? How am I using this to evolve myself, right? My consciousness, my mind, my emotions, just consistently evolving. Because I believe that human beings are not simply on this planet from birth to grow old and die. No, we are here to evolve, and not only mentally, but consciously, right? We need to, because you look at a kid, for example, right? Let's say somebody who's under 10 years old, they conscious, they more in an egocentric state of being, right? Where it's more about, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine, right? So we constantly evolving, right? Even when you become a parent, now it's less about yourself, but more about your family. It's about giving, right? So we need to realize that the seasons in life are always going to be happening. It's going to be changing. Seasons not going to stay here. And what are the lessons? How am I growing from this? How am I evolving from this?
Now, one thing I want to ask you is, you have had many, many clients, and I'm sure some clients have come to you with stories or with their personal pain. Is there any story like that is like funny or crazy that happened to you, or you with your clients, or you with your friends in the past, that you want to share with us today?
A specific story. I can't pinpoint a specific funny story, but what I can say is that, if we actually look at our own experience as human beings, right, ultimately, we are funny, right? Because how we react to life and how going through life is ultimately, they're so self-absorbed in our problems. And we can notice that sometimes somebody can be angry because their car broke down, right? But there could be another person don't even have a form of transport. One can be angry because they have to do a budget, right? And they can't maybe go out to restaurants because of COVID. Another person can be unemployed with no money, right? Not knowing how they're going to feed the kids. And both people are feeling completely upset and angry by this experience that they are going through. And if we look at that, that's actually funny, because why? We are so self-absorbed in our own problems, right? We are so self-absorbed in our own experience. Realize that if we can elevate ourselves, right, beyond that, and you mentioned first person, elevating ourselves beyond our own experience, beyond the self, right? That is where we actually find power, because now we can actually take a bird's eye view at ourselves, at life, and see that life is happening irrespective of what's happening to you. It's happening to everybody, right? Just in different shapes and forms. It's happening, but it's not trying to break you specifically. So how can you then grow through this particular things that are happening to you, instead of taking such a serious outlook on the challenges, the hurdles, the falls, the hurt, the pain? Instead of taking it serious, instead of saying, life is happening. It's like you said, the waves are coming in. Let me experience these waves while simultaneously knowing that there's no need for me to overtly react to this, right? Because my reaction, even though I might feel that it's a worthy reaction, is it truly a worthy reaction, right? So I always pinpoint to that. Is it truly a worthy reaction? Because, like I said, if we're looking at like the example that I made earlier, where of somebody who maybe lost their job, right? No food, somebody who's dealing with this challenge of now they have to be on a budget, right? They can't take the family out to the favorite restaurants, for example. We can say both of them are feeling that pain, right? But is it truly something for them to become overwhelmed with? Or instead, can they say, you know what, this is just part of the experience in life, right? It's part of the journey.
Yeah.
And how can they instead grow from it? So not simply just reacting to it, like saying, this is the worst thing that happened to me, but saying, you know what, it might feel like the worst thing, but still be happy for your pain, right? Be happy for your pain. And I always say that, like, if
That's
we can be
hard.
happy for our pain, yeah. Be happy for our hardships, right? It could be
Yeah.
worse.
Yes.
It can always be worse. It can
Yes.
always. So getting
Yeah.
out of our own experience sometimes can really be powerful.
Yeah, totally. And I wanted to add a story before we end our very quick half an hour chats. And that was during the time of the COVID, when, like you said, we are always usually focus on ourselves, right? Ourselves, our life. Like, for example, I focus on myself, my needs, my children's needs, my husband's needs. That is the core focus, right? That is like the core of my earth, right? And what I realized is that one night we went out to stay. We went to stay one night in Patong at a hotel because the deals are like amazing, like 500 baht, which is what, like $15 US dollars, like for a villa. So it's like super cheap. So we stayed in Patong for one night, and then we went to eat dinner at a Korean restaurant that was still open. There was only 2 tables in the whole restaurant because Patong is dead. So quiet. The street was just dead. There was no lights like you would normally expect, right? With people walking, nobody. And we were eating. We were, we were still able to eat out. Okay, not as much as before, but we're still able. So we are very blessed in our own ways that we still try to, we kind of in a way keep our lifestyle, okay, but not as flamboyant as before and things like that. But this lady, this old Thai lady, walked by the door, and there was another table that was close to the window. And because she was next to the window with this table, she was like this, and she was ragged, like dirty, older Thai lady. And you know that she was begging. She was going like this to the table, like the Farang guy with the Thai girl. And then I saw the lady, and I was observing her. And what I learned is last year was not just have compassion for yourself, but have compassion for other people. Because when I see people hurting, like it hurts. I mean, like for me, it hurts. Like when I think about it now, it makes me want to cry because it's so sad to see people begging, and that table, they gave her some money. And then I told my kids, we were still chilling in the aircon room of this Korean restaurant, bright lights, all nice and stuff. And I'm not saying this is a fancy 5-star restaurant. It's just a normal restaurant in Patong. But I just felt all of a sudden so lucky, more lucky than I would have imagined because of this lady who was there to share this moment with us. And in no way did I feel that I was above her. Like, no way. I just felt like, holy cow, I am so lucky that I can eat this. And I gave, as much money as I had in my wallet. I gave it to my kid, and I said, please go out there and give her some money. And then I wide her, and you know what she did? She bowed down with her knees on the ground, bowing at us and the other table. And I seriously, I had tears in my eyes, and I have tears now because it's so sad to see that. And I think in Thailand, not too many beggars because they can always go to the temple, to get free food. But just the fact that COVID made this lady have to come out and beg. I mean, can you imagine? She's probably not just feeding herself, but her grandkids or somebody wherever they're living, which is like probably like a hut with metal plates over their heads. So that's my story. It's not crazy, it's not funny, but it was so touching. And yeah, I am also very self-absorbed, not in an egotistical way, but when you are less than before, you feel just kind of like worried about yourself and your family. And she was a great teacher for me on that day.
I love that story, really. And that is something that the bad times produces, right? Pain produces. It produces an opportunity for us to evolve, right? For us to become more compassionate.
Yeah.
And if we understand what compassion is ultimately our ability to expand, right? To expand beyond the self, right?
Right.
And to really connect with others, and
Yes.
to see ourselves in others, and for others to see themselves in us, right? That compassion is, right? And these two powerful points that compassion brings out, right? The first is that it helps you to connect with other people, to truly love other people, because you can see yourself in them, right?
Yeah.
The second thing is that it helps us, right, get out of the state of being self-absorbed in our own life, right? So compassion, I believe, is a foundational principle, right, that we all should strive towards, developing more of. And that in itself is a gift for us, because it will allow us to then rise up to our own opportunities and the possibilities that still exist for us, no matter the hand we've been dealt or the challenges that we are facing, right? So there's always gifts in every single thing, like I say. And like you just mentioned, you pointed out compassion. Compassion is powerful. It's the ultimate source of love.
Right. And don't forget, not just compassion for other people, because there is a time where I have and other people have given too much, and you forget to give to yourself. And like I said, I'm not saying self-absorbed, I'm not saying egotistic, but if you have stretched yourself too much, if you are too harsh on yourself, when there's a lot of outside forces that prevents you from growing, or maybe growing slower than before, you have to have that compassion for yourself and be like, okay, be patient with yourself, with what you can do. And instead of moaning or complaining or thinking, oh my gosh, my life sucks, take action and decide how you can take action towards making your situation better. Because when your situation is better, you are automatically giving to other people as well, right? So you can give crap, complaints, moaning to other people, or you can give positivity and happiness. It doesn't necessarily mean charity. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to give money or do these, oh, I'm taking a photo and I'm helping to give rice, which I do sometimes too, just to show that I do charity. But sometimes giving to the highest level is to not release negativity into the world. Keeping good karma for yourself and for other people. And that's what I learned from, I think it's Thich Nhat Hanh, is it? I don't know how to say his name, the monk. And Mother Teresa is not how much you give, it's how much love you put into the giving. So that's how I want to end today with the coaching. And, I can tell you are a mindset coach, just from the way you talk, from the things that you said, it's helping to me as a fellow human being. It's really, really important to connect with other people and to meet them and to share. So thank you so much, Kyle.
You're welcome.
For chatting with us. And any audience who want to ask us questions, maybe you have questions in the future, because I'm also watching the Facebook Live on my phone there. That's why sometimes you kind of see me like looking over. If you have any questions later, text us. You can find Kyle on Kyle Daniels Facebook or Coach Success. Is there any other place you want people to contact you, Kyle?
Like on my personal Facebook or my business, Coach Success.
Yeah, Coach Success, COACHED.
I just wanted to also just finish off. I just wanted to add something to what you mentioned there, the fact that, sometimes we can give too much of ourselves, right? And it can do us harm. And this is something that I think is an important principle for us all to realize, that everything has a point of diminishing returns. Right? So we need to identify what is the point of diminishing returns, whether it is you, let's say, giving someone, right? There's a point where it's no longer beneficial, right? Or serving the cause that you ultimately want, whether it is to help and grow yourself, or whether in terms of going to train, right? You can spend 5 hours in gym, which then could have a point of diminishing returns. Instead, it's not producing. You're no longer being able to maybe spend time with your family and things, you understand? So everything, we always have to distinguish. Sometimes something can be good and it can be necessary, but determine when is it too much, because something that is too much, it reaches a point where the returns are diminishing. It's no longer serving your ultimate purpose. So that's all I want to say.
Right. When you said too much to me and to other people is you actually need to be aware of your body. Are you feeling fatigue? Are you feeling that your mind is no longer clear? Are you using your phone too much? Even like some basic stuff, right? And actually I have a question here from an audience from Ryan Barry. Thank you so much, Ryan, for, joining. And I'll let Kyle answer first, and maybe I have, something to add. Ryan asks, any mental activities to help those self-isolating with COVID-19 to stay positive in a tough situation? That was the question.
I will bring that again to the point I mentioned earlier. Like the very first thing is try to identify what the potential gifts can be in that moment, right? So you're stuck at home, self-isolating. So what can be the potential gifts of this? It could be spending time with the family. It could be taking time for yourself. Maybe you've been overworking. It could be trying to do that course. So there's so many things you can do, but you need to identify, first of all, how can this be serving your ultimate purpose, right? And this brings us to something that's very important. Identifying why you're here on this planet. Identifying what you want to do with your life, right? And your years while you're here. So once you have that, right, as your North Star in a sense, you are then able to say, okay, this will serve my ultimate outcome, right? Whether it is one day I want to be able to be the best father, right? Or I want to be able to provide for them at a higher level, whatever it is, you then able to identify, okay, how can this situation that I'm in right now serve that? And this also brings us to a very important thing, right? That we assign meanings to everything we go through, right? All experiences. And this is all based on our personal narrative, our own story, right? Of who we are and how the world operates. We all have a model of the world, which is built up through our own experiences. And what usually happens is that now it's triggered instantly. Oh, this is what it means, it's bad, or whatever it is. Oh, unfortunately, I'm not able to go to work and do all these things. I have to take a pay cut or this. But if we can find a meaning that's more empowering, right? Then you are ultimately giving yourself that seed. You're planting a seed of opportunity, of growth. And now you're giving yourself the chance to evolve through that.
That's excellent. And Ryan, let me add to what Kyle is saying. And now Kyle is more talking about mindset. I'm going to go back and give you some ideas of what I would do if you are self-isolating in the tough situation. First of all, if you have too much energy, you have to make sure that you learn how to release that energy. So if you're in a small room, and I know there's limitations, you have to somehow release excess energy. You have to do some kind of exercise. Even in that room, whatever you do, you do just running around the room, you do some like push-ups, watch some videos that will help you to release some of those excess energy so that you are in a way sweating, because physical exercise, the body is what can link you to have the growth or the spiritual growth. But if you are not aware of your body and your body is having all of this, anxiety, fear, whatever negative energy that you may feel, especially in your self-isolating situation, what I find is you really have to do some physical exercise, at least like an hour or half an hour in your room. If you're lucky enough to have like a pool or garden, go outside and just walk, be with nature. I think that actually helps. Besides all the other mental things that you can do, physical thing have to balance that out. So that's my advice for you as well, Ryan. So thank you so much. And also Kristen for coming and watching. I will try to do it on a Tuesday and a Wednesday for my guests in the future, but I will let you guys know when the next guest is and who it is. So thank you once again, Kyle. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, Abel. I enjoyed the conversation. It's always awesome to, share insight and frameworks that can help people, elevate their own lives and their own consciousness. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for all the audience for watching. Have a great day, and ask us any more questions in the future. All right, bye-bye. I'm going to stop the live now.